Gemini, welcome to your reading for the new year. Let's get started and see what messages we have for Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising for the year ahead. All right, Gemini, keep in mind these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone. So make sure to check out your other placements because you could have messages there as well, which will give you the full picture. Okay, Gemini, let's see. What is the energy around the year ahead for Gemini? Energy around the year ahead for Gemini. What's that one? Chameleon. Ooh, I love that card. Let's see if anything else wants to come out here for you. Doesn't look like it. Okay, I guess not. Okay, hang on. There we go. Okay, bottom of the deck, we see entanglement, which is another interesting card. Oh, you got some interesting ones here. Okay, entanglement, validation, and water. Okay, so you're getting some emotional stuff going on here that it's interesting that the sort of initial feeling I'm getting is that you yourself can be entangled in other people's validation of you. It causes almost an emotional response and allows you to match energy as a chameleon. It's interesting. This makes me feel, Gemini, that you're being sort of guided to look at this sort of entanglement that happens and whether or not, it's serving you to be so entangled in validation, in external validation or inner validation. Which one are you responding to? It's interesting. I wonder. You'll have to sort of reflect on that and answer for yourself. But seeing this chameleon card, first of all, I just want to point out that you've got card 50 and card 51. And that's very interesting to me because in a very well shuffled deck, you got two cards that are in sequence. And whenever that happens, I really feel like you're making some big moves. Like you're really on a pathway right now that's moving quickly. And this chameleon card is really signifying to us that you may not actually feel like you really fit in anywhere. And so matching energy may be sort of a superpower that you've trained yourself to have so that you're in a room, you're with a bunch of people, you don't feel like you fit in, so you match their energy to fit in. And I feel like you do that. You might be very good at this. This might be something that you do and actually have a hard time not doing. You might have a hard time being authentic and sort of standing in a room that you don't necessarily feel you fit into and being okay with that. You know what I mean? You might have a tendency to look for validation in the external because it makes you feel like you belong. So, it's interesting coming into 2023. I think you're being invited to look at this. You're being invited to look at the emotions behind this, the water. The water represents our emotions. So what is this emotional entanglement you have with needing to sort of match energy so that you feel like you belong and that you're validated by others? This is an interesting question. It could be a very important one for you to consider as the new year sort of takes hold. This is a time of worthiness, assessment of worthiness, and really feeling like you can offer yourself validation to fill and sustain you. You don't need to have external validation, because the thing with external validation is that you're not always going to get it. You're going to end up having to match energy in some cases. The external world can't always validate you. There's always going to be someone who you don't feel an instant connection with, or you don't feel like you connect with, or a group of people, maybe even like a larger community of people that you just don't feel like you jam with. You're a different vibe, and there's nothing wrong with that, Gemini. You don't have to fit in with everybody. And that is something that, you may have to discover this year, that the strongest validation is when you validate yourself. That's the strongest level of validation. And so if you can offer yourself that validation, you won't need to look for it in the external world. And that might lessen this emotional trigger that makes you feel sort of entangled in energy matching. Energy matching, I feel, is something that we do as a sort of a trauma response to feeling a lack of worthiness, a lack of belonging, and then we figure, well, the only way I'm going to get that is if I'm just like everyone I meet. And so then you lose that authenticity when you become a chameleon. You're like, what's your true nature? What's your true self? It can get lost when we match energy too much. And so it's interesting. It's this entanglement card is really encouraging you to cut cords to where you may have been matching energy or being less than authentic. Any sort of unhealed relationships or ones that trigger that chameleon vibe where you're like, oh, I'm in this situation, I'm having a trauma response because I don't feel like I belong and I want that validation, so I'm just going to match the energy. You're really being guided to snip, snip, cut that cord and release yourself from those emotional hurts and then focus on understanding more about that authentic self. Focus more on understanding that authentic self so that you don't feel like you have to energy match in response to wanting validation so that you feel worthy. You will offer yourself that validation, which is the most powerful source of validation, is from the self. To say, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm me, I'm authentic, I can be me in a mix of people. I don't have to match their energy. You know what I mean? And matching energy can take on interesting forms. You might find yourself saying things that you don't actually believe. You might find yourself behaving in a way that gets you that validation, but it's not authentic. It's not who you are. And I'm not saying you have to go around and tell everyone who you are every time you meet them, but as long as you know who you are, then you can sort of be still in those moments. You don't have to have that trauma response where you start doing, saying, being things that aren't authentically you just to receive that validation, that feeling of worthiness. I feel like in this new year, you're being guided to offer that worthiness to yourself, to offer yourself that validation and belonging. You know, it's interesting. Let's see what the tarot cards will reveal for you, Gemini, for the new year. Okay. Yes, empowerment, 9 of Pentacles. Empowerment, knowing yourself, and then this idea of not overthinking things. So discovering your authentic self and then not overthinking it. You know, not worrying about the outcome of being your authentic self. Staying in your power and releasing the fear of outcomes where, what if they don't like me? What if I don't belong? I never feel like I belong, you know? And in this idea of sort of cutting the cords to that kind of thinking, feeling, and being, because it's not serving you. And there's another 9 of Wands. So I feel like you're at a point here where you're building something and it's challenging, you know? It may be feeling a little bit exhausting, always trying to match people's energy. But you know what? I'm glad it's exhausting because then you'll stop doing it. I think you're at the point where you're about to shift into self-empowerment here. 2022 may have represented a lot of matching energy, but I think 2023 is you setting the energy. You setting your own energy and not feeling like you have to match others' energy, but just being okay being in your own vibe. Yeah, there's that Page of Cups saying that there is there's a transformation happening on that emotional level that we see here. You know, you've got the whole situation. You got Pentacles, Swords, Wands, and Cups. And it's like you're standing in your power. You're going to cut cords to all of this fear of outcome and this guilt and shame that you feel because you don't belong, you feel, and it's like you're done with that. You're building something new because you're exhausted of keeping up this facade. You don't want to keep up this chameleon act where you can match energy like that, and now suddenly you look like these guys and these guys and these guys. And well, what about you? You're lost in that mix. And I feel like that's about to end. I feel like in 2023 we see a Page of Cups here birthing a new emotional quality to this experience that feels like you're sitting in your power. you're offering yourself that validation. And I feel like you're really sitting in that seat of power, High Priestess on the bottom of the deck. You're connecting with yourself intuitively, emotionally. You're understanding who you are. And you're not going to step into that matching anymore. It could take some practice, but I feel like you're aware of it now. Like seeing the High Priestess shows me that you're aware that you need to cut cords with this kind of trauma response of matching energy. And worrying about what's going to happen if people don't like me, or what is my authentic self? Like, I feel like those are the questions of 2023, and you're working on it. Like it's happening. It's got a really strong emotional quality and a very strong reflective quality. I'm seeing the Hermit on the bottom of the deck as I finish shuffling, getting ready here to clarify. But it's very empowering, and it's learning about yourself so that you don't have to match energy. And it'll be very interesting, an experience for you to sort of be around people and be yourself. And, that might sound kind of like, well, that's nothing, but it's not nothing, because I think a lot of the time when we match energy, really being ourselves is actually very courageous, because for some time now, seeing that entanglement card, I would say for a long period, you've been very good at matching energy. And so now standing in your truth and just being yourself, and feeling really good about who you are and validating yourself and not seeking that external reinforcement anymore, that's going to be a new life. That's going to be a new life. And there's another page, as I say that, the Page of Pentacles. This is really a messenger of this new beginning. This is you saying, I'm going to try it this way. I'm going to be myself and see what happens. I'm not going to match energy. I'm just going to be myself and hold the energy that I hold and validate myself. And that will not only be the most authentic you being expressed, but that's also going to align you with people that are in the same vibe. So instead of being a chameleon and trying to fit in with everybody, you're going to start noticing that you're going to find your people. You're going to find the people that align with you, instead of you trying to align with everyone that are maybe outside of balance with you. Look, there's another page. Okay, you got 3 pages here, and it's a Page of Swords. So you're going to start communicating differently. I think you're going to start sort of really understanding yourself on a sort of material level in terms of your personality, but also in terms of how you express yourself and how you feel about yourself. All of these pages are inviting you into this new direction. And I love that for you. 2023 is going to be the year that you feel like yourself, you act like yourself, and you speak and think like yourself. This is all about you being authentic. And I feel like you're putting to rest and putting to bed all of these other versions of yourself. No way, no way. The last page. Oh my God, that took me off. That took me by surprise, my friends. There's the Page of Wands. So your will has changed. Everything has changed. You've got all the pages have shown up here. So that signifies you're getting a very strong message that you're about to transform on all levels. You are changing your whole experience in 2023, and I love it. It's amazing to see. And on the bottom of the deck, we see the Nine of Wands again, reinforcing this idea that you're done doing things the same way and getting the same results. I feel like you're ready. You're done. You're just ready. You're exhausted from matching energy. You're exhausted from not living your true self, or being your true self and living your true life. And I feel like you're really tuning into yourself this year, cutting cords to anything that feels like it was false, or just you were doing it for validation. You were doing it to be recognized by others. And now you're like, I'm just going to recognize myself and do me. I'm going to be me, feel like myself, be like myself. Look at, you're leaving this 9 in the past. You're no longer going to stay up all night worrying and wondering what's going to happen next and how did they feel about me and what did I say? Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And no, that's over. This is over. You're moving on from this, and you're exhausted from that kind of energy, I feel, and you're ready for this. This is amazing, Gemini. I can't believe you have all 4 pages. I'm just really, really blown away. This is really signifying a big shift for you where you're ending a cycle. You're ending a cycle of matching energy, and you are validating yourself, and you are validating your authentic self in all ways, in all the levels: emotional, physical, personality, material, thinking, believing, communication, and your will and your inspiration. It is all shifting. It's all shifting into a new, more authentic vibration. Wow, I love that. Okay, I've been pulling one of these oracle cards for every sign to see what the guidance is from this white light oracle. Let's see what card you will receive, Gemini. Interesting. You got card number 2, Cupio Dissolvi. It's Latin. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I'm going to read the messages right out of the guidebook for this because I love the way Alana has written these. Alana Fairchild made this deck. So let's go to card 2 and see what we see. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll hold it up so I can read it for you. It says here, it's time to let go. Things are working out in their own way. Trust that your heart is wise and leading you on a soul healing journey and the right spiritual path. Spirit wants you to bring a blessing and a resolution. Spirit wants to bring to you a blessing and a resolution, but you must let go and allow it to happen. Events are unfolding according to a higher plan. Even if your plans go awry, know that all will come together at the right time and in the best way possible. Surrender your struggle and hold on to your faith. Now, this card goes on to talk about not necessarily always needing to feel like you're in control to be safe, and not always needing to have others to validate you in order to be safe. This oracle brings you the message that suggests here that if you approach things from a more authentic and even spiritual perspective, any issue you come upon will be healed and resolved. This card mentions the idea of dissolving, a desire to dissolve, to be absorbed into the luminosity of a soul. This is entering a state that requires you to loosen your attachments and fixations on the external world and let go of needing to have that sort of validation come in from the external, but rather to validate the self. This is very interesting. It's really about freeing yourself to be yourself, feeling free to be yourself. And it's interesting. We see here that there could be this idea of emotional trauma that came up when you weren't allowed to sort of express yourself. And you weren't allowed to hold that emotional capacity to develop your authenticity. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's all coming out now. It's so uplifting, this beautiful message. It's very transformative. It's transfiguring as well, not just on an emotional level, but on all levels, like we saw with all of these pages coming through for you. It's interesting. You could be holding on to some pain because of a lack of acknowledgement, and sometimes that lack of acknowledgement is like, it sort of comes up later on in life as needing validation when we weren't acknowledged at an earlier time of our lives, during a time of development when we needed to get that acknowledgement from certain people in our lives, and we didn't. And so then that can create this need for external validation, and it feels like you're coming into a healing of that. You're healing that in this new year. You're healing that. Wow, what a very interesting message for you. There is a path for healing that you will recognize by letting go and cutting ties with anything that feels like a lack of true, authentic fulfillment. It's so true. Like, I feel like you're setting the tone for your year by saying, I'm gonna be authentically me, and if people don't like it, then that's okay with me. You know, that is okay with me, because not everyone's going to like everything I do, and that's fine, because that doesn't change my worth or my value. And that really feels like the tone you're setting for your year, that you're just not going to match energies anymore for the sake of validation, you know? Really interesting messages for you, Gemini. Now, let's pull your final card of guidance here. I'm just shuffling this giant deck, and we will pull a card for you. Okay, for Gemini, what is the highest guidance? Thank you. Healing. Yeah, this is a year of healing for you. Be gentle with yourself. Balance the lower chakras, which are solar plex, sacral, and root. So your I can, I feel, and I belong. Exactly. If you have that personal power and you feel it, you feel authentic, and you express that authenticity, you're going to feel more grounded and secure. So I'm just pointing up at my my chakras here on the wall. So it's I can, I feel, I belong. Solar plex, sacral, and root. You are worthy of love. Practice self-care. You need it right now more than ever. And you are enough. Look at, I know it's backwards, but that's the final guidance for you, Gemini. I feel like you're really making some big moves this year. You're making some big changes. You're cutting ties to a lot of things that feel like they're limiting you, and they're keeping that authentic version of you hidden. It's like you're coming to life here through this healing. Yeah, be gentle with yourself. Focus on those lower three chakras, solar plex, sacral, and root. Know that you are worthy of love. Practice a lot of self-care, and know that you are enough. Oh, what a beautiful reading. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading, Gemini. I hope it's been helpful. I'm sending you so much love and light for the new year, and I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care, my friends. Have a great year. Happy New Year.